You're listening to the Rodney Anderson Radio Show, right here on 1190 AM.
People are going out and looking at home improvements. It is a big job right now and a big part of people's lives. And we wanted to have Stephan Sardone on. He's been with us for as a special guest. Stephan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rodney. Thanks, Susie. How are y'all doing?
Doing fantastic. Amy can't even make it in today, man.
Yeah, I heard she's doing her own DIY project at home right now.
That's right.
All right. Well, yep, I'm your gal today. So if you have any questions or advice directed towards women, you can just direct those at me, and I'll be happy to represent my entire gender. So.
Excellent.
All right.
So I have a lot of questions about women.
It's not that the show's not that long, Stephan. We'll get together later.
Yep. Stephan, home remodeling. How is the market right now? What are you seeing people do? Is it where business? I mean, I saw Home Depot and Lowe's reported earnings the other day, and Home Depot blew out their numbers. Lowe's is blowing out their numbers and all that. What's happening out there in the home remodeling market?
I mean, it's very exciting. You know, I think the whole country's doing really well with remodeling and new construction. You know, Dallas is doing fantastic with remodeling because, you know, where people want to live, there's not a lot of tracts of land left. They're realizing they love their neighborhood, they love their neighbors, they love the school their kids are in, but they need more space, so they want it to be nicer, and so they come down to it. They look around, they can't find anything they like. So they stay home and they put an addition on, or we fix it up, or we work with their existing space and make it a lot nicer for them. And so I think, you know, there hasn't been a better time to be in remodeling than it is now in a very long time. It's exciting.
So a lot of people are going to go in the car this weekend, and they're going to go to the Home Depots and the Lowe's and all that. What should people not be buying, and how do people avoid spending so much money on home improvements when they don't know what they're doing?
Yeah. You know, I say Home Depot and the Lowe's are great places for DIYers, not great places for GCs to shop, because the thing is, when you're at Home Depot, what you're paying for is convenience and availability of a lot of common products that you can use to fix your sink, to do a minor rewire, to change out some outlets, etc. But if you need to buy enough outlets for the whole house, if you need to buy enough lumber to, frame the entire addition, that's not where you want to go, because, you're not getting the prices you need, because they're not meant to be priced at that quantity. But yeah, I mean, but it's great for DIYers, and they have a lot of great resources, and the project that you're working on, it's also convenient that, Home Depot and Lowe's are everywhere. So when you have to go back 10 times in one day to get the right part, you're never too far.
That's
so they're
me.
very convenient
Yeah,
for that.
that's me. Oh, dang.
I forgot something else.
I did that.
Well,
yeah.
Something that you just said, Stephan, when you're talking about Home Depot cost versus if you're a contractor getting wholesale versus retail, basically, at what point does it become more prudent to hire a contractor versus doing something yourself? Is there a specific cost that you look at and go, if it's a project that you can do yourself and it'll cost less than $500, do it yourself? If it's over that, when does it make sense to bring in a contractor versus just have your handy husband give it a shot?
Sure. Good question, Susie. It's interesting that the last thing you said is give your handy husband a shot. If you can get him to do it in the time frame you're happy with, that's one thing, but I don't find that to be the case.
Yeah, just sit down. Have your husband sit down, ladies. Sit down in the chair and look at him, evaluate him, and say, no, that's not your job.
Yeah.
You can't even,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of things. Okay, let me qualify the question. Assuming that your husband is capable of and willing to complete the project, what kind of things? Where do I draw the line?
Sure. I think the first and foremost would be like quality. There's a lot of DIYers, and then there's this spectrum of quality work that can be done. And I think, if you do enjoy working with your hands, a lot of guys, they don't get to do this. And so they really, it's relaxing for them to go home and work on a project all weekend. And I would say if they can produce it in a fashion that's timely enough where everybody's happy, that's number one. If they can produce it at the quality level that your standards are at. That would be number two. And then I think it's probably going to cost you about the same or more to do it yourself because of the experience level. You will have to go to Home Depot a bunch of times. You will buy some of the wrong stuff. You'll find out things on the back end. The learning curve, you're going to pay for that. Mm-hmm. And I see DIY as a great thing to do when you enjoy doing the work, when budget constraints are such. And I think there's a lot of great opportunities to do that sort of thing. But I think if you're talking about painting the whole house, that's probably not the best thing. You're probably going to spend more money trying to do it yourself and being unhappy with the result than if somebody else did it.
Yeah, I think also going into Home Depot and Lowe's is like going into Costco. You're going to go in for one thing, and you walk out of there with about $1,000 worth of stuff, and half the stuff you're never going to use.
Half the stuff is still going to be in the bag whenever you look at it 6 months later. Okay, last question, and then I'll let the guys jump in. I'm monopolizing you here. Is it reasonable to expect a free quote, to have somebody come to your home, a contractor, tell them what you want, and give you a bid for free, or do contractors typically charge for their ideas and bids?
I would say when you're getting something for free, a lot of times you're getting what you pay for.
True.
And the values. I think if someone were to give somebody a real live quote, that's going to take 20, 30, 40 plus hours easily for most sizable jobs. If we're talking about a handyman job, somebody could be able to come out there same day and add it up and say, here's what it'll cost. And I find that most contractors would charge for that as well. They're going to charge you for the time to come out, but they'll deduct it from the total if you sign right then.
Got it.
And then, and that's for handyman. And then for bigger jobs, I mean, absolutely. There's just because a client says I want an addition doesn't mean you necessarily know what needs to go in that or what they like. And so it does take a lot of time and energy and working with the client to figure out what they want to come up with that real number. But I think, ballparking is free. If somebody says I want a 500 square foot second story addition, most contractors would be able to say, yeah, that's probably going to be $150,000. Is that in your range? And you can go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of projects that are out there, and a lot of times you get knee-deep into those things, especially on the bathroom remodels, the kitchen remodels. You want an expert really to do those things for you in so many situations and also, here's one of the things. We do a lot of cash-out refinances for people that are doing home improvements, and it's amazing how many people will call and say, I want to do this $35,000 job, or I want to do this $45,000 job, and a lot of times I've asked them, have you gotten bids on that? Have you been working with the contractor yet? No, I haven't contacted them.
Then how do you know what you need?
Yeah, you're always going to want to have some extra money there, because the last thing you want to do is hire a contractor and then you're short. And then you're sitting there, because here's what I'll see happen. They'll do a cash-out refinance, pull the $45,000 out, and then the contractor gives them the bid, and they're up to $60,000. And so they're doing their work. They're cutting corners to do the job that they really want to do, or they're out there financing the other $15,000 on their credit card. Mm-hmm. And how many times, Stephen, do you probably see that where people don't really understand that these remodel jobs can get very expensive?
Yeah, I mean, the thing, remodeling is interesting. If you want to buy a new Mercedes, you can get on the internet and you can see that they all cost the same, But remodeling, people, there's nothing quite like that, and everybody has this idea of what it should cost. The Property Brothers did the whole house in 2 days for $15,000, so we figured you can do it in $20,000. But that's part of that. Those initial conversations and consults. That instead of just pulling some wild number out, you really sit down and you work through what the project is with the client. And you help them figure out what their budget should be based on what their needs. And if it's not if they think the budget should be lower, then their needs to go, also reduce as well. And it's a process. it's fun, but it's a process.
Yeah, it is fun. It's a process, and it can be overwhelming, and it can cause a lot of husband and wife fights and all that. Make sure that you guys know what you're doing. Stephen, where can everybody find you? Your websites, everything. We know you're fantastic at what you do, and I would highly recommend if you're thinking about a remodel job and are a major home renovation job. There's no one better than Stephen out there. Stephen, where do you normally concentrate on in the Metroplex?
You know, we're really lucky. We are in East Dallas at Walnut Hill and 75, and we find most of our work is in about a 5-mile radius of there, though that is not the, we work a little further than that as well. But yeah, that's where we are, and we find we got a lot of good clients there that we can service by keeping it close to home.
You bet. And where can everybody find you, sir?
You know, our phone number is 972-786-5849, and our website is sardoneconstruction.com. Probably going to misspell that. Just Google it. Give it a try. We should pop up pretty quick.
Yeah, all right.
Very good.
And we appreciate you, Stephen.
Thank you, Rodney and Susie. Y'all have a good day.
All right.
You too, sir.
Talk to you soon.